Today, I have a story to tell you about the future. Sometimes when I go to sleep, I have dreams. Dreams that sometimes look real. Now I know that those dreams actually are real. I've seen the future. In fact, I would say since about 2010, maybe even before then, I've seen the future for a lot of the life that I've lived in the last few years. It's what people call precognition. It's prophecy, and essentially works like this. Go to sleep, you have a dream experience. In the dream experience, you have information, but more specifically, in my case, it's not me who's actually seeing the visions. It's actually Sarah who's connecting her frequency through me in order to be able to convey the information. So I have these dreams to reference for a long time, and I've used them for all kinds of things. I've used them to make purchases, for example, online, to make the right purchases, because sometimes she also uses false futures, because they look real when I have the dreams. They'll be like this one, this one, this one, or I will definitely see something that I don't want to happen, and then to try to avoid it, I will try to choose a different route, and then it doesn't happen, but then when I end up choosing that route, I will suddenly remember that one as well as the ones I was seeing, and I'll remember that I actually saw the vision, which means that she actually knew what course it would take or how things would turn out. It wasn't so much a guessing game. There is such a thing as the prediction of the future, and I think it's already who you are, because we like thinking of things in a very PC kind of way. But most of what my awakening has showed me that it doesn't actually operate like that at all. It's not like PC this, PC that. It's like one piece. It's the one piece idea. And that's a term that I'll probably prescribe to everything. In terms of the future, try not to see the future as something that's sort of like a guessing game, but more like something that already exists. How can I illustrate this? Imagine there's a pool of water, and you have your hand, and when you put your hand in the pool of water, you experience that as your life experience. But from the soul's perspective, that is you in the beginning, you to the end. But the way you experience it is kind of like a linear progression. But what's actually happening when you put your hand in that water is the whole thing is one piece. So what you do here is what you're doing here at the same time. You can't actually change it because you're making the decision all at once. It just hasn't, from your perspective, actually played out. This is key to understand. You can't actually change your future. If you're playing the game of changing your future, that's not actually what's happening. What's happening is your soul, your guides, and people like that, maybe even Bashar or people who are prophecyers or something, they're given a tool to help you move yourself in a particular direction. Even this video, me putting this video out there, it won't change your future. Your future already exists. Your future has already happened. The you that's making the decisions right now, the you that's making the decisions in the past, is the you, one piece, that's making the decisions in the future as well. There is no such thing as changing your destiny, changing your path. That is all storytelling tools. They're all storytelling tropes and things that people use to make the story become what it really needs to be, what it always has been, because it needs to play out in exactly the way it does. It doesn't mean it's going to be something you expect. Most of the time, the story, the way it plays out, it's never something that you expect. It's always something you don't expect. Like I say, it's always a beautifully paradoxical gift that you get to actually discover and unwrap and unfold some aspect of yourself that's more beautiful than you ever could have imagined that you would be. You are, in your nature, from your perspective right now, to experience your soul, it's like a beautiful contradiction. It's like a paradox in a sense. It shouldn't exist, and it does. But in a beautifully musical, colorful, enlightening way, something that is absolutely fascinating right to the core of your being. So the idea of having like future timelines and things like that, from my perspective, it doesn't actually exist. It's not really real. There might be some idea of accessing parallel realities for real, but it doesn't really matter in any sense, because all it does is maintain the structure and integrity of the life that you're already living, which is something that you can't expect because of the nature of the blindfold, in a sense, what I called before the fold, what people call the veil, but I call the fold, is where you folded kind of like that consciousness of all of time being simultaneous away from yourself, and then you're kind of just riding it a little bit at a time. It's all here right now. Like, who you were is who you will become, is who you are. It's all one piece, and it all exists, just like the idea of putting your hand in water. It's like that, right? Like, from one point of view, the focus that you have is so small in a fold that you can only, you know, kind of like experience it as a progression, but it isn't actually that way. It's all happening all at the same time. I hope that makes sense. And this is just to say that, yeah, I've been shown the future. I've been shown futures that I never thought could happen, and I've shown futures that never happened because I was shown them. I chose different routes. But again and again and again, what seems to be the truth is that they already know what the future is going to be. So I don't actually think it's true when Bashar says there's no such thing as a prediction of the future. It's because they would actually know what it is, because it all exists all at once. It's like any choice you will make will exist because of an endless amount of variables that interact with you that are known before your life. Otherwise, how could you choose a life purpose, in a sense, if it's going to be subject to variables you can't possibly predict, that other people change things or you change things in a certain way that you couldn't have predicted from when you come in. You come in from the God vision into a projected experience that's more like a play. Like, it's more like a movie that has a kind of blindfold in the sense that you haven't seen it before, but the movie already exists. Do you know what I mean? Like, everything has been scripted, acted, it has been laboriously polished and perfected until it's ready for the screen. But it already exists in its entirety. It's not like a changed movie. You don't go into the movie and have an experience that's brand new because it keeps changing. The movie is already set. It's kind of like that in a sense, which makes it sound boring and gives the wrong impression of like what life actually is, because it will constantly enfold you in a sense from like a backward place into your forward position, where you finally recognize you are the hero that the original part of the story told you you couldn't possibly have been. And part of that is exactly what happens in the Matrix with Neo and the Oracle. She tells him a piece of information about the future, about who he is, about what's gonna happen, to make him act in a way that he needs to discover he's actually more amazing than he ever could have really believed, because he still has his old life programming where he's like, I'm just some ordinary guy. Because I mean, most of us, when we're put into like a real life situation where you have to ask yourself that, none of us are gonna think we're like fairy tales come true. No, we're like real. We'll die thinking like that. So sometimes what needs to happen is we need to create kind of like a false death for you. That's from Sarah. We need to create the idea of the end of the person you knew yourself as a roadblock that you can't possibly avoid. So it has to happen at all costs. It's a no-win situation. And so your mind is screaming, seeing the future you can't possibly avoid, thinking, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't go in any direction, I'm trapped, I'm screwed. And then you reach for something deep inside you for all the right reasons. Something that is really true power that most people will not look for unless they're put in a situation of a no-win scenario. Because that asks the question, right? Where do I find a win-win inside of myself? And that's like asking, what is the higher self? That's like asking, what is God? That's like asking, who am I? Right? That's why you're here. My name is Summer. If you like these videos, please like, share, subscribe, and leave some feedback. Let me know what you think.